Blue zones are regions around the world with the highest population of centenarians, or people aged 100 and older. Compared to the rest of the world, people in these regions not only live longer, but they also live much healthier lives. This results in an overall higher quality of life, especially later in life. There's a few things that go into making the success of a blue zone, but one of the underlying reasons that really resonated with me was its people having a sense of purpose. It's called different things in different places, like in Japan, it's referred to as Ikigai, which roughly translates to reason to live or reason for being. Ikigai is at the center of 4 key elements: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. These 4 elements can be used to help uncover someone's purpose by identifying their passion, vocation, mission, and profession. Discovering these things has led people to live longer and more meaningful lives. That's because it can create joy in everyday life, encourage physical and mental activity, make strong social connections, inspire community involvement, and reduce stress by practicing mindfulness, all leading to increased happiness and health benefits. Having a sense of purpose can really shape someone's life. When we feel compelled to do something, we're going to do more things that ensure we're able to do that. We have a better sense of our priorities and will find more happiness and fulfillment in working towards something meaningful. We can get overwhelmed with everything that we're told we should do to benefit our health. But what if the best thing that we can do is find meaning and purpose in everyday life? What if, by finding that, we're able to live more intentionally and all the good habits and benefits naturally fall into place as a result? If you haven't made the connection already, this feels very similar to the idea of closing the gap between who we are today and who we want to be in the future. If we're able to become more familiar with our future self, and if we're able to build plans based on our values and what's important, we can find meaning and purpose in working towards these goals and becoming the person we most want to be. In his incredibly successful 2009 book, Start With Why, author Simon Sinek repeatedly says, "People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it." He believes that consumers are drawn to an organization's why, or their purpose behind why they do what they do. There's a lot of truth to this. People are willing to pay more for things that are ethically sourced, or come from companies that support their shared causes. We value purpose. Sinek looks back and points out people and companies that were not in the best position to do what they did, but because of their why, they were able to overcome those odds and in some cases, change the world. Here is Sinek's golden circle, which consists of 3 layers: why, how, and what. Traditional thinking often works from the outside in. This essentially creates a race to the bottom. It lacks consumer loyalty or an identity and fails to differentiate themselves from competition. When everything looks the same, it comes down to price and features, with most people opting for the cheapest or the best value for ideal features. Starting with why, on the other hand, builds trust and loyalty, drives innovation, creates a differentiator, and really puts companies in a league of their own. Sinek uses Apple as an example throughout the book, whose why he stated as to challenge the status quo. This led Apple to build a huge following of loyal customers who were bored with the typical and looking for the exceptional. If they didn't lead with their why and just built computers, they likely would have been the same or very similar to everything else that existed. Now, this isn't just opinion, there's actual science behind it. When we think with why, we activate our limbic brain, which controls things like behavior and decision making. It gives us our gut instinct and our loyalty. Our what thinking falls within our neocortex, which controls our senses, reasoning, analytical thinking, and language. It gives us reasoning and communication. Although Start With Why is a book aimed at leaders of companies who are hoping to transform and inspire their workplace, there's a lot of lessons that are relevant to investors. If we're able to incorporate a modified version of this into our own thinking, instead of transforming and inspiring our workplace, we can transform and inspire our lives. In order to make decisions meaningful, we need to make an emotional connection to them. We do things all the time that go against logical thinking, but for whatever reason, feel right from an emotional standpoint, to our gut instinct. If emotions drive our decisions and our actions, we need to tie the decisions we want to make to us in an emotional way. To simplify this, we can think of our why as our purpose, our how as our process, and our what as our product. Our purpose is what matters most to us. It's what we ultimately want to work towards and achieve. Our process is how we plan to get what matters most, or our purpose. And our product is the action and outcomes that our process creates, what we specifically need to do to make it happen. Author James Clear makes a similar connection in his book, Atomic Habits. He says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." He suggests that we fail to make meaningful progress because we try to change the wrong thing, and we try to change habits in the wrong way. There are 3 levels of behavior change. They are identity, processes, and outcomes. Identity is where our beliefs, assumptions, and biases are held. Processes contain where most of the habits you build are. And outcomes are where most of the goals you set are. Outcomes are what you get. Processes are what you do. Identity is what you believe. Our default is to begin the process of changing our habits by focusing on what we want to achieve. This leads to outcome-based habits and is a problem because our old identity can sabotage our plans for change. We're holding onto our old behavior because it's familiar, even if it is working against us. The alternative is to build identity-based habits. With this approach, we start by focusing on who we wish to become. True behavior change is identity change. Once we believe in a particular aspect of our identity, we're more likely to act in alignment with that belief. When our behavior and our identity are fully aligned, we're no longer pursuing behavior change. We're acting like the type of person we already believe we are. Simon Sinek believes that we need to start with our why, or our purpose, behind doing what we do. James Clear believes that we need to start with our identity in order to create meaningful change. We have to focus on who we wish to become. To me, they are 2 ways of saying the same thing. We want to be making decisions that originate from our purpose. This can do a couple of really important things for us. When we know the purpose behind what we are doing, it's easy to keep it top of mind and always work in that direction. And it also gives us a cheat code to making decisions. When we are faced with a choice and are unsure of the right decision, defaulting to our purpose, or what matters most, can make the correct choice obvious. When we combine this lesson to the previous 2, we get a very clear recipe for success. In order to better prioritize our future self, with the actions that we make today, we want to become more familiar with our future self. This requires us to think about who we want to be. The easiest way to think about who we want to be is to think about what we want our future to look like. We can imagine different goals or milestones that we want to accomplish, and by comparing where we are today and those goals, we can determine the effort required to make them a reality. And by optimizing, we don't only make those goals easier to achieve, but we make the journey towards them enjoyable every step of the way. What we want to ensure, though, is that the future that we're imagining is tied to our purpose and what matters most to us. That's going to look different for each of us, but what we want most is no less important than what anyone else wants most. It requires reflection and blocking out the noise of what other people want or what they think they want. It's likely not going to be materialistic things. Sports cars and fancy clothes aren't really going to make you any happier than you already are. It's going to be things built around experience, what you enjoy most, and your loved ones, the things that actually matter. As investors, we want to do everything possible to give ourselves the best chance for success. There are technical things that we can do, like choosing the right investments and accounts, but knowing what we want to work towards and ensuring that those things are what actually matters most to us feels even more important. Research shows us that something as simple as thinking about what matters most and who we most wish to become can lead to a longer, healthier, more meaningful, and higher quality life. Considering that it doesn't require us to contribute additional money, take on additional risk, or create sacrifice in our life, it has to be the easiest thing that we can do to improve our chance of success, and ultimately, the quality of the rest of our lives.